Looking for real estate in another country can feel intimidating and overwhelming if you aren't familiar with how real estate works there. Spain is quite different from the United States in several areas when it comes to real estate, and I would imagine is different from other countries as well. Today, I'm going to explain some of the ins and outs of real estate in Spain, helping you to navigate your own home buying adventure in this beautiful country. Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money, where I will show you how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence, especially if that road is leading you to Spain. Okay, let's jump in. I have purchased 3 homes in Spain and sold 2 of them over the last 6 years, but I'm finding more and more that I really got lucky and didn't have to go through much of a shopping process. Back in 2018, I literally Googled cheap houses in Spain to show a friend of mine how inexpensive properties could be, and the very first listing that came up on Idealista.com blew my mind. I owned that house just 60 days later, working with the English agent who had listed the home. The next house I purchased directly from a neighbor with the assistance of my attorney handling all of the paperwork. The third house I purchased from another neighbor whom I had never met, but a friend of mine knew the agent who was selling it, and she was literally just trying to get it off her hands, which is what landed me a killer deal. All of that to say, the only house shopping I ever did was Googling cheap houses in Spain. I didn't even go looking for the others. They just showed up on my doorstep, or more realistically, they showed up in a WhatsApp message. So I've never used a buyer's agent here, but as I try to help others navigate their shopping process in Spain, I'm realizing more and more just how different the real estate process is here in Spain, certainly from what I've experienced in the US. There is one thing that really stands out the most to me, and we'll talk about the layers of impact, but that one thing is lack of regulation or governance. That might sound surprising, considering that Spain is known for the vast amount of bureaucracy, and trust me, if you live here long enough, you'll see what I mean by that. But the lack of regulation I'm talking about is specific to the shopping process. Now, lack of regulation isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you should be aware of how that might impact you and understand any pitfalls to avoid. Okay, as we look at regulation, an area that really stands out is the lack of a central management system for real estate listings. In the US, we have something called MLS, which isn't one big system for the entire US, but the different MLS systems are used throughout the US by agents and brokers as the place where they can go to get information about a property, often more information than what a consumer can just find online. Now, there are some MLS operations in certain areas of Spain, but it's not at all a central piece of the real estate process in Spain. There is also a lot less regulation of real estate agents in Spain. As a matter of fact, there is basically no regulation. I could just be a real estate agent in Spain. Maybe that should be my next career. Now, I'm not saying that anyone on a tourist visa can just come here and be an agent. I'm sure there are laws about who can actually work in Spain. But what I'm saying is that you don't need a license, you don't need to be registered, there's no exam, nothing. You don't need anything. So if you're looking for a business to start in Spain, this might be an easy one. But if you're looking for a good agent, taking a test and registering doesn't really make someone a good agent. But I think you'd really want to do your due diligence, considering there is literally no bar to be met. What this also means is that there isn't really an agreement about commissions between seller and buyer agents. From what I understand, the seller pays a commission to the selling agent, usually between 3 and 6%. I've heard that the local agent in my town charges a flat rate commission of 7,000 or 8,000 euro, regardless of the price of the house. So if you're selling a really cheap property, that would seem outlandish. I've noticed that a lot of listings I've seen lately will say in big, bold letters, no buyer's agent commissions. I think it's pretty common here for the seller's commission not to be shared with the buyer's agent, but you can tell from the listings that some people probably came into the real estate game here expecting to share in the commissions when they helped to bring a client and then got nothing from the final transaction. So if that's the case, how do the buyer's agents make commissions? Well, I've only read about this online, but what I've seen there is that usually the buyer pays the buyer's agent a commission, which could also be a flat rate or a percentage agreed upon in advance. Well, now that we have a general understanding of how these things usually work in Spain, let me point out some advantages and disadvantages. One issue that I've seen and find to be terribly annoying is that a lot of people will list with multiple agents with the understanding that only the agent who sells the property gets the commission. You can literally go onto idealista.com, which is a popular real estate site in Spain, and see 8 different listings for the same property. Each listing has different photos, slightly different information, and a different contact. And honestly, what agent is going to be working super hard to sell a property when there's no guarantee they'll get paid anything for their time? It just doesn't work. And as a shopper, it is so annoying to have to click through so many of the same listings. For the most part, they'll at least be listed at the same price, but not always. If you find a property that you are interested in, be sure to Google the address and see if it shows up anywhere else listed for less. It's not all that uncommon, and it's worth a quick search. The thing is that in addition to the agents, the homeowner can also put up their own listing as well. Now, one of the advantages of the process being so unregulated is that you can buy and sell a house without an agent, meaning you could save thousands of dollars. Of course, that isn't impossible in the US, but it is much more difficult. Here in Spain, you can do your own shopping without an agent, and it's pretty easy to do your own listing as well. Of course, there are benefits to having an agent, especially if you have a good agent. I've listed houses on my site for a couple of people, and the process of going in, taking photos, making a listing, it's not nothing. It takes time. And then there is dealing with the inquiries, or if it's the buyer's agent, reaching out, getting appointments to see properties. All of that is time consuming and might be worthwhile to you to have someone doing that for you. In Spain, if you don't speak Spanish, that's another issue of having a language barrier, so having someone bilingual working for you can be helpful. Although I find that it's not all that difficult to communicate using Google Translate and messaging in WhatsApp. If you aren't familiar with WhatsApp, it's a messenger app that is widely used around the world to communicate as it's encrypted. It was bought out by Meta, which owns Facebook, several years ago, but continues to work in the same way. Anyhow, if you've watched any of my other videos about the process of purchasing a house in Spain, you'll know how important it is to have a good real estate attorney. Once you've decided on a home, they are the ones that will literally do everything for you. I've put together a free attorney guide for real estate in Spain. You can visit traveltomoney.com/legal to download the guide, which will help you to know what you should get from your attorney and about what you should be paying, so you know what to ask for when you're looking for an attorney. I don't give out my attorney referrals publicly, but for those who book a coaching session with me at traveltomoney.com/coaching, I always follow up with attorney referrals based on the area you are shopping in. If you are shopping anywhere in the Valencia region, you get my personal attorney contact. Now, the other thing to note when shopping for a home in Spain is that although there are very popular sites like idealista.com, you can't go to that site and hope to find all of the listings available in an area. It's not nearly as easy as using something like Zillow or Realtor.com in the US. I find that it's a good idea to Google real estate listings in a specific area, like the name of the town or the name of a region, and go through several different websites to see what is available. You may also want to check out Facebook Marketplace as well. Another thing I find to be interesting is identifying home values. If you've done any home shopping in the US, you're probably familiar with the estimates that the popular apps will show you for the home value. You can also easily see the price history and the tax history. That's basically non-existent here in Spain. If you're looking at a 2-bedroom townhouse, for example, your best bet would be to compare it to other similar listings in the area. But it's really hard to know if something is overpriced, underpriced, or a fair asking price. I suppose it's all about what the property value is to you, but you'd want an idea of what the resale value would be as well. Speaking of pricing, just like most other places in the world, the price of a home is negotiable. You can offer whatever you want. Let's say your all-in budget was 100,000 euro for a house in Spain. Well, considering you have to pay a 10% tax and then some other attorney fees and such, that would mean that you'd be shopping for a house where the home price would be around, let's say, 85,000 euro to be safe. Well, if I were in that situation, I'd still be looking at houses that were listed for around 100,000 euro and making offers from there. I've seen some crazy situations. You have to keep in mind that there are a lot of expats who own homes in Spain and may be selling as well. And what age are the expats in Spain? Usually they're coming here for retirement, for that last phase in life. So you may have a home being sold by a relative of someone who was a retiree to Spain and passed away, just trying to get rid of the property. You may have someone who, because of family reasons, needs to sell quickly because they are having to go back to their home country for one reason or another. There are all kinds of different situations that could benefit you in the negotiating process. Now, that doesn't mean you'll always get a house for lower than the listed price, but it does mean that you can and should try to negotiate to your benefit. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine has a house on some land here. There is a lot right next to his that is overgrown and sits empty. He had his attorney find out who owned the lot, and it turns out it was inherited by two daughters who have never even been to see it. Well, they have no interest in that land, so he just made them an offer and got a killer deal. You never know until you ask. Now, if you are wanting to learn about the process of purchasing a home once you have found the one you want, be sure to watch this video next, or you can check out some of my Spain property renovation videos here. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.